everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered HR. I'm Emily from Ally HR Partners.
And I am Jen Straight from Complete Payroll.
In case you forgot. Today we are here at Fresh Catch. We're at the Williamsville location today. They also have a great location with a whole bar downtown on Pearl Street.
Oh, you buried the lead. The bar?
Yeah.
There's a bar there.
Yeah. We're not at the bar location, shockingly. We're not at the bar location today.
What's in the cooler over there? I think there's something.
Yes, there's also a market here where you can buy fresh fish. So thank you to Mike and the team here for letting us take over a part of the restaurant and shoot today and have some good food.
Yeah, everybody seems to be enjoying it in and out, and we apologize if there's background noise, but they have to get their fish.
Spring is springing. It's a good,
That's right.
Diet.
It's a perfect day for
the
it.
spring. Yeah. All right, Jen. So I have a question. How are you feeling today?
Like in general?
Yeah,
or
in
like,
general.
Oh, I
Your
am
vibe.
I actually just talked to my friend about this. I am really great and also ready to lose it at any moment. It's just a lot. There's a lot of things going on as a mother and a employee and everything, but generally good. Thank you for asking.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And I think your sentiment is probably similar to a lot of people's right now. And on that note, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. The past 2 years, especially with the pandemic, on and off, and people being cooped up at home and kind of personal needs growing, and now there's a war going on. I think everyone is a little bit on edge, and more than ever, employees' personal needs, whether it's mental health related or personal at-home needs or concerns, are trickling into the workplace, and employers are having to deal with these things more than ever for just doing the right thing purposes, but also employees aren't exactly growing on trees these days, so being accommodating and understanding and empathetic is more necessary than ever to keep good people around and just to keep people around in general. So we thought we'd provide you with some tips today on how to kind of keep that within the rails and how to deal with those things in a way I think that balances your obligations, but also the right thing to do, but also still being able to run your business in the midst of all of that stuff.
Absolutely. I think it's important that employers recognize the blend that has happened. A lot of people still are working from home, and it's natural to have that blend. They're working from home and they're also dealing with home issues and children, and when they're homesick now, it's not like necessarily where you go to an office anymore, but and if you are going to an office, it's different now. They have opened that door to talk about all of these things, and it can be a good thing, but like you said,
schools
I think
are closed and canceled and kids are sent home more than ever. So how do you navigate all these things?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So our first real tip, and the first thing you want to make sure that you understand as you have employees that come to you or your managers with these issues or concerns or needs is knowing what your obligations are. Not that you want to just act only on obligation, but you should know whether the situation or circumstance has certain legal requirements around it or certain employment laws that apply to it, because you don't want to inadvertently step outside of what you're required to do when dealing with it and get in trouble on top of of dealing with this and taking the time to deal with it. So that means, Jen, are there any leave requirements, right? So if someone needs like even a short-term leave of absence to deal with whatever they're going through, you should know what your obligations are there. And we're not going to go into that too deep. If you recall, one of our last episodes was on leave, on leave obligations, and there's more resources on both of our websites about that. So, but we're talking right now about disability leaves, FMLA, paid family leave, even paid sick leave, which is just paid time off you have to offer that's protected on a daily basis. So just make sure you understand if there's any obligations in that leave area, if they need leave as part of a way to deal with their issue.
And Emily, just as a side note, has a great chart on that of what qualifying factors are for each leave, and you can kind of start there, just like you said, your obligation. What are your obligations for these qualifying factors in these leaves, and then manage it from there. If they're asking for leave, or do you want to suggest it as an employer to take some time? Sometimes, the employee feels like they can't ask, right?
Yeah, and if you know of a circumstance, whether it's someone's own mental health issue or a family member's mental health issue or illness that they have to help take care of and miss time for, you do have to actually, as an employer, provide and offer that leave, right? Not necessarily wait for the employee to become aware of it.
Right.
So just, make sure you're aware of that requirement. But Jen, there's also another layer that is important to know. Even if an employee doesn't need a leave of absence, they might need some sort of accommodation of other type. And if the condition that they personally are going through is ADA protected or Americans with Disabilities Act protected and qualifying, then you might need to accommodate them in some other way in doing their job, whether it's some sort of reduced work schedule, modified hours or hours they can work in the day, just different things that you might have to modify as a requirement under the law in order to help them work through their disability situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, not only is it obviously the right thing to do, but there are guidelines and law requirements for that ADA, and we'll have more information on that on our website.
That can be a tricky subject when it comes to accommodations. You certainly don't need to provide accommodations that prevent someone from being able to do the essential duties of their job. You don't need to accommodate to that point, but there are ways that you can get creative and keep the person at work, working, making an income, that kind of thing, but still in the short term modifying their situation so they can work through what they're working through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So reach out if you have those situations because they can be tricky. So aside from kind of that first check the box of what are you required to do, what should you be careful of, what by law are you required to kind of look into and make sure it's taken care of. Also, you may want to consider other options, right? You're not held just to those obligations as an employer. You can go outside of that. You can offer things formally. You can offer things informally. So we wanted to bring you some ideas for that as well. So certainly if someone needs a leave, Jen, and there's nothing by law that's required, you can offer them a personal leave of absence if you'd like.
Yeah.
So that's one really easy option. You'd want to make sure it's well documented and that it's for a certain defined period of time and that kind of thing, but that is an option. Another great option I think we've talked about on other episodes is setting up an EAP program benefit. So do you guys have associations with any of those, Jen, locally?
Someone had just asked about whether we have someone that we could refer to, and my first thought was, let me go to Emily, because we don't. Everyone has their personal relationships, but we're always looking for that kind of referral relationship because a lot of businesses are looking for that now. Yeah,
the biggest provider in this area that is also the best, I think, is Child and Family Services. So they have an employee assistance program. Depending on your employer size, there is a cost to it per year, but it's pretty minimal. And it's an amazing benefit for your staff. It really gets them access to help and resources in the community when it comes to mental health counseling needs, financial counseling needs, helping them find a place for their elderly father to live, really detailed, helpful resources that can, save a lot of people's mental health and time and sanity when they're dealing with these issues. And the other great thing about EAP program is it kind of allows you to offer a resource as an employer without having to get too involved yourself, right? Because there are some concerns if your managers themselves or you as an owner get too involved in the personal lives of employees. So this is a resource to be able to provide help without having to cross that kind of gray and tricky line.
Yeah, and I think a great point that you made is it's not just for the employee, but it gives you resources to help your family members. So it's not just for you, but like you said, trying to find housing
the whole family.
For the family. So that is just such a great resource to have because you know what, you are also trying to run your business. Yeah. You may not be the expert in that, and you want to provide that to your employees because, as we talked about again and again and again, it's so hard to attract and retain good employees. What are ways that you can provide other benefits that maybe the business next door isn't doing?
And that's an example of a benefit in some of these others that we'll suggest really quick here that employees don't often see the value in or appreciate until they need it, right? And it's not necessarily the best recruiting tool, but it certainly is a great retention tool, and that kind of loyalty you show to your staff and commitment to them will pay off, big in the future for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can even reach out to your health benefits. There are some local health benefit brokers that are now offering those kind of services to include in their health benefits, their telehealth, things like that. And again, it doesn't always need to be a cost to the employer sometimes, but just doing your homework and research and providing those kind of services to your employees helps that loyalty and helps that retention of your employee.
Yep. Yeah. And then some other creative options there, to help with people as they have, whether it's increased mental health counseling needs or they're going through their own medical issues that they put off during COVID that are now worse, so their family is. Consider options like FSA accounts or HSA accounts as an employer, really easy add-ons to your benefits that you're already offering that may have no cost to you. You can choose to offer employees to contribute themselves, but also you can contribute as an employer. And that, again, is a way to provide some funds or means for employers to seek that help more proactively. Because we all know it's expensive. A lot of people put it off. You would rather spend money on fun things than doctor's appointments or counseling. So if you really build in that kind of nest egg for employees to have some funds for that, it might help encourage them to do so. And also, supplemental disability benefits might be something to look into as well. And I think we might have mentioned that on another episode. But again, that's a way to encourage employees to take leave if they really need it, because they have more than just that $170 a week available to the state if they have some supplemental benefits available for that.
Right.
Yeah. All things you can look into with your benefits broker. Yeah. All right, so on those notes, if you do decide to go kind of above and beyond what is required, or really even if you are going to offer what is required, if it's an accommodation or a formal leave, I would be remiss as an HR person if I didn't say you should really have like an established policy and procedure for these things, so you can make sure that you have guidelines you're going to work in now, but also later for future circumstances, because as we all know, it's kind of about consistency across the board with employees. So if you're going to do something for someone today, you want to make sure that you follow the same protocol in the future, so there can't be any claims of, favoritism or discrimination and things like that. So if you're interested in doing any of these things, try to take like a holistic, longer term approach to doing it than just reacting in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think taking that approach removes you from the situation. And once you're in the situation, you may be confused and emotions play a part in all of these things. If you set those guidelines and basically have a plan of what you're going to do, it may be just a lot easier procedure once that comes up, as opposed to bringing all these emotions in and just kind of having that set.
Yeah, thinking about this stuff now and setting a plan, even if it's in reaction to something that's occurring right now, is still going to serve you better for the future. And on that note, Jen, the plan also helps you with training your managers for this stuff, right? Yeah. So probably the people that are getting the brunt of these inquiries and having to deal with this the most are your frontline managers. They're the ones that talk with your staff each day. They're the ones that deal with call-ins. Yep. So they're the ones that have to deal with turnover if it's causing turnover. So doing some education and training with their managers on what, first of all, is required from an accommodation and leave standpoint, but also other options available like EAP, so they can refer the employees to EAP or whatever it might be, is really important too, because it'll kind of allow you to deal with this more proactively before it becomes a bigger issue in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and that helps everybody. It helps the planning stages, and it helps the managers recognize these signs earlier too. Yeah. And like you said, sometimes not waiting until the employee brings this up, but recognizing this and then maybe having that approach, and I don't want to use the word fixing, but attending to this matter more proactively may, save a lot of time. It may save a lot of frustration and stresses for everyone involved.
Yeah, because if someone's having an issue and you don't know of it yet and there's no conversation, it may become an attendance issue for that person before it becomes an issue that you can work with them collectively and collaboratively on. So that's a good point. But I do want to make another point that training your managers also on where the boundaries should exist is important. So empathy is obviously something we encourage all employers to have. That relationship with employer-employee, that's more important than ever. But you want to make sure your managers know what lines not to cross and not to get too personally involved in an employee's situations. Whether it's sharing medical information or other personal information, that should really be escalated to HR or whoever is wearing the HR hat in your business, just from a business protection standpoint. and also to just make sure it's being handled properly and in compliance with the law. So educating your managers on where that line is, but also to save them some time and sanity, because if they all become counselors for your business, that's going to take a lot of time.
Exactly. That can bog down a lot of managers when they are trying to do the right thing and they are trying to help their employee that they care about, and it starts to become a cycle. So that's why it's important to have that plan ahead of time, setting those boundaries. And that will help.
Yeah, so having the plan, the final point is really back to that plan point. If you have a plan, if you have some defined resources that you can refer employees to, that can help provide your manager support in dealing with these situations and help provide employee support, that's super important. But then at some point, I do want to make the point that you are running a business, and certainly there's a line of kind of boundary that you need to set as well. And if you're working with an employee on some of these things and it's still not working out, then they might, you might need to part ways with them, and then have them reapply in the future, things like that. But I have worked with clients who their business mission somehow becomes kind of solely about serving the personal lives of the employees, and that can be really detrimental to the business as well. So just kind of a piece of comfort that you don't need to go to extremes, and you are running a business, right? So setting boundaries is important.
That balance is key, and just having that plan ahead of time, and having those resources, and like you said, reach out to your health benefit broker. And if you don't have health benefits, what would your suggestion be? If you don't provide that now, would you go to someone directly for the EAP?
Yeah, you can contact Child and Family Services directly. We can tag them in this video, so we'll make sure to do that.
Write that down.
Send all clients there, and they're always very happy. But if you don't have health benefits now, first of all, make sure that you shouldn't, based on your employer's eyes. But we also have several referrals of great brokers and things that can really go the extra lengths to help you with kind of weighing the pros and cons of some of these benefits and the best options for you.
And I think now is a great time to look at this. And like you said, we work with a few partners in the area that will really give you different options, not things that necessarily cost you an arm and a leg, and some things that won't cost you anything as the employer, but it's important that you do your homework, help your employees the way you can so you can retain those good employees.
And some of these are really minimal cost if you think about it over your population, and the amount of time and money it can save in turnover and training and retaining someone great, really, it can easily pay off. So consider that too.
Yeah, that's just it. And not only like the training and retaining someone and doing all of these, it's keeping the people that work well for your business, which is keeping your customers coming, right? So if you're having that turnover and it becomes a mess, then your customers are going to recognize that, and then you're not making, it's all like one cycle.
It's an ecosystem. That's what I like to say. The health of your business, your employees, your managers, really determine the health of your business. And so the little things you can do to help, their health be better will, benefit your business as well.
Great. Well, I think that wraps up our video here.
Yeah, speaking of healthy, get down here and have some healthy food as we head into summer at Fresh Catch. And we will catch you guys next time. Remember, if you have any suggestions for topics, or if you want us to come shoot where you work, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to Emily or myself, or email unfilteredhr@completepayroll.com. All of that information will be somewhere in the blog or in the video. Yeah. Joe's great at
Thanks,
all
Joe.
of that. Thanks, Joe.
Shout out to Joe.
Shout out to Joe. Thanks.
Bye-bye.